We are talking about billionaires. So, stay pinned to your screen because there's a lot of money coming at you right now. Forbes threw out their yearly list of who's added to the billionaire ranks across the world. And they added 487, if I read this correctly earlier. But it's almost near 500, which was about one billionaire per 17 hours last year. Which is a lot of people becoming billionaires. Most of the billionaires were added in China, followed by the United States, Germany, and then Canada. As it relates to crypto, Sam Bankman-Fried was the biggest billionaire, I think, to make the list with $8.7 billion. Most of his funds are tied up in FTX, the exchange he owns, as well as the FTT token, which is kind of like a quasi-equity token for his exchange. Notably, he did all this in 1 year. And 2 years ago, FTX was just beginning as an exchange itself. Formerly, FTX was kind of an in-house project from Alameda Research Group, which is a quantitative trading product that SBF also runs on the side. He's co-CEO of both of those companies. So this kind of speaks to the banner year that a lot of people in tech had. A lot of people in tech made a ton of money as everyone moved online. Particularly crypto people were able to kind of capitalize on this and make a ton of cash. I think an interesting side note here that Forbes did not include is that SBF is well known in the crypto community for giving out his funds to others. He's a big proponent of altruism and donating. And I think he plans as of now to donate most of the capital he accrues in life. So that's an interesting part that I don't think made it into the Forbes report because maybe it's just like a little bit too deep. But I want to give this over to Naomi as someone who's kind of tracking the cultural scene of crypto.
As someone who's looking closely at the billionaires, keeping tabs on them. So the
isn't crypto culture just that?
Yeah, right.
Yes.
So it's split between, we've got early investors there, then we've got the infrastructure builders, and then we've got the coin issuers. The only two people under the coin issuers section were people associated with Ripple, XRP, which I found interesting. So that project's made some people a lot of money there. Maybe I shouldn't have been so quick to dismiss it in the early days. Could have, made some coinage there. But it is we got a big chunk of people on this who were building infrastructure. And I think that's obviously where people were going to be making their money, unless you knew about it in the early days and like the Winklevoss twins or Winklevi, I'm not quite sure how we're meant to pronounce that. Unless you knew about it in the early days, you're like, I'm putting everything into crypto. Really, you got to be smart about how to leverage this giant boom. And as they say, when there's a gold rush, you should be the one selling the shovels. And that's what these people did. They sold the shovels and they made a ton of money. These are the people who are building all the exchanges and everything that has allowed this crypto adoption and free exchange of all of these currencies. So it's very interesting to note that. Ben, what are your thoughts on all of this?
No, I mean, I'm be curious too to see when they took these measurements from and kind of when they cut off. I believe it might have been before that SEC ruling came down. But obviously, Ripple's not had really any effect from that. So who knows? Hey, good on them. But I think it's interesting they broke it up into 3 areas they did. I think that does help identify where there's a ton of value being accrued here, right? If you're an issuer, if you're an infrastructure builder, if you're a first adopter, those are the people that are really, really benefiting from this current run. And it also shows if you looked up on the sidebar just there's Brian Armstrong, the Winklevoss twins, Michael Saylor. These are all the people that are making headlines in the mainstream and continuing to help drive not only further adoption, but also Coinbase is about to go public with a huge valuation. So these are sort of the figureheads in some way that we're seeing on the CNBCs of the world and are sort of carrying this message. So is that good or bad? I don't know, but it just shows that, the people we see and hear about most often are also the people that have made a ton of money off of this.
Yeah, I'll also add to that there are undoubtedly so many more people on this list who, just keep their finances private. These are the people who run public companies. These are the people who, as you said, Ben, are in the spotlight, are being very vocal about their involvement or they're needing to give over financials publicly for whatever the company they're running. Undoubtedly, there are probably so many crypto, at least billionaires, but likely, at least millionaires, but likely billionaires as well, that we've just never heard of. And that's the interesting thing about crypto, is that you can keep your finances private in that regard, which is kind of cool. Jen, who was your favorite person on this list? Who made you think oh, wow, that's interesting?
To be honest, I think it. I want to say Matt Rozak, just because I didn't expect to see him on the list when I opened it up, and obviously he's down here in Canada. So often he's down here in Canada often. So we get up here in Canada. Thank you.
You're welcome.
But when I looked at the list, I just imagined that like Kim Kardashian meme where she's just like dealing money out. I just was scrolling and I was like, wow, look at all these people who've become so wealthy in the crypto sphere. And I wondered to myself, like, is it possible to make this much money in crypto now? Are we going to see another wave of these crypto billionaires, or is it just too late?
I mean, I will also say,
we'll all speak. Ben, take it.
I mean, just a quick note here. I do think that unfortunately, this is one way that crypto maybe also reflects the mainstream, and that all these billionaires are just white guys. So just a small side note there.
You really are.
Well, I would say that that's a very negative way to look at it, Ben. I think that we've seen a giant wealth transfer, which hasn't been made possible before. We have so many government regulations that preclude poor people from accessing the same investment tools that wealthy people can. And for the first time, we have something that has no barriers to entry that anyone could get involved with. You know, you're saying, well, it's just white guys. Well, maybe they're the
for large technical barriers. Let's not be under any illusions there.
I mean, that's a little bit patronizing that women or, people of color may not have the technical capacity to, to do this. I think everyone does. So it could just be I don't think we should go there. And so I definitely think that, unless you're going there and saying that, like, there are no barriers to entry for this, anyone can get involved. And that's a wonderful thing about crypto that we should be celebrating.
I just want to correct myself. Matt is in Canada often, not...
Enough on Canada, Jen.
I'm sorry. I just need to get Canada in whenever I can.
Yeah, I'm part Canadian, so I'm with you. No, an interesting part of this was like
what? Okay, we need
I
to
think
just
200.
Part Canadian.
I am part Canadian, which doesn't mean a lot because American and Canadian's like the same thing. There's a lot of these billionaires were, I know you're not going to like that. A lot of these billionaires were Chinese. I think the majority of them. And a few of them were even Chinese women, which is interesting to see. There's this proliferation of capital because of technology, which is great. This isn't all Americans becoming billionaires. It's not all white men becoming billionaires. And even the top guys like Sam Bankman-Fried, he's planning on donating a lot of this money. So I think there is at least some narrative change there where we're seeing kind of the way that people become wealthy it is moving away from America in a sense and moving to other countries slightly. Obviously there needs to be more change there overall, but it is interesting to note that.